You know, like when your meth addiction makes it so you lose your like wife and your kids.
Just stop doing it.
Yeah. Well, you don't know how it's affecting sitcoms. And if you knew that is true. If you knew how it affected sitcoms.
You know, guys, if we would have just stopped smoking meth, we would have never had Breaking Bad. Like, there'd be no point to that show.
It's true. So either keep doing drugs so you can make excellent dramas, or stop doing drugs so sitcoms will stop making preachy episodes. These are, it's not that hard.
Honeys, we're home.
Hello and welcome to Sinclairity, Dinosaurs Tale. Today we are on episode 27 of the podcast, and I am your host. We're gonna need another Timmy, along with my co-host.
Hey, I'm Ben. Hand up me.
Ben today has not been on our side. My microphone broke, so I apologize to everybody listening to this right now.
Yeah, this probably sounds like shit, but like it's fine because there's like 4 episodes where my mic fucked up. It does suck though, because I don't like going back and listening to those ones because it sounds like I'm calling you like on Ventrilo or TeamSpeak in 2005.
You're on Discord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll make do. This is a punk podcast, right?
That's right.
Until the actual Muppet fans find us.
For the punks, by the punks. Okay.
FUBU.
No managers, no networks. It's just us.
Subtle brag. But so this week we're going to be doing season 2, episode 17. If you're following like the DVD list, I don't know what it is on Disney Plus. They changed it all around. But you'll find it in season 2. It's called A New Leaf, and it was released February 5th, 1992. So like same month as we're recording this right now, but like a million years ago.
60
a million years ago.
60 million to be exact.
Yeah, to be exact, it is 60 million BC. And this episode was written by Rob Yulin, who wrote Hurling Day and The Howling and I Never Ate for My Father. He does all the ones with the daddy issues. They're all like Robbie and Earl's daddy issues. It's a weird thing.
If you listen to the last episode we did with Tim Doyle, the interview, he talks a lot about Rob Yulin.
Yeah, because they're still friends, and they were having a Zoom dinner later that week.
Yeah, and he worked. I think didn't he work on Roseanne and Andy Richter with?
Yeah, Andy Richter Controls the Universe, and Norm, and George Lopez, and Malcolm in the Middle. He's worked on a bunch of stuff since Dinosaurs, and then this one was directed by Mark Brohl, who. I don't know if he's directed one that we've done before. I don't think so. But he worked on My Two Dads, which was another Michael Jacobs show. That does not look good. I've never seen it. It doesn't look good.
That's like a 70s.
It's not good.
And we have a ghost in the studio today who will introduce is our friend Justin Schafer from Big Snackers is joining us. What's up, Justin?
Do you want me to just come in? I guess I can just come in.
You gotta come in at this point. I don't have much else to say about Mark Brohl. He also produced the Jeff Foxworthy show, so he dug his own grave.
You might be a producer for Dinosaurs.
Yeah, My Two Dads is not good. That was a show I remember when I was very, very young that like was on television, and it was controversial because it was 2 men, but they weren't. They were raising this girl, but it wasn't. They weren't in a relationship. They weren't they didn't. It wasn't like a sexualized thing. It was just 2 guys who both thought they were this kid's dad, and they were like raising her together. And it was like 3 men and a baby, only 2 men and a teenager on television.
Yeah, the premise.
People were upset about it. I don't know.
It was also fucking wild because the premise was that they were both the woman's exes, and she like put in her will that she wanted them. She's like, well, this one's an artist and this one's businessy, so they should have my teenage daughter to themselves.
Right. So they can have the best of both worlds.
I was just like, nobody does that. Like, she broke up with them separately. They're exes of hers. And she's like, you know what? Don't want to be with them. Do trust them to raise my daughter together.
And I think there was like part of the show hinged on like they couldn't, for whatever reason, couldn't prove which one was the dad or something. But it's like that would be really easy to figure out. You could just go get a blood test done and then, you know, have this. Even back then, paternity results, like they were still pretty, I think, pretty held up pretty well in court of law. You know,
was that like the series finale? Is that they went to take
they went on Maury,
and then they end up both not being the father.
And then she just gets kicked out on the street, and that's it.
Like, we don't care about this orphan anymore.
Stop eating our food.
It was that show was, I remember being like so 1980s, like over the top about everything. Like their apartment looked like, it's a hazy memory or whatever, but it was like insane. They had like a gigantic, like almost entire warehouse level apartment in New York, of course, because everybody did. And I don't know how they afforded it or anything. None of that has ever gone into on any of those shows, but like it was like huge. And I remember they had like arcade games or something in there, and like those weird like the glass bricks that you can't see through, you know, but like a whole wall of those and like graffiti on the walls and shit. And it's like, I guess because he's an artist, and then like there's the business guy. It was weird. That show's fucking weird. I don't understand it. And I just know the one girl that was on it she ended up on like Step by Step later or something like that. Yeah.
I just imagine pitching a show in 2021 called My Two Dads, and you're like, and they're not gay. It's just like, like,
and then like some executives like, well, why? And you're like, you know, they just want to live together. They just like, you know, they just like living together. They're reaching across the aisle. This is it's like the one dad's like alt-right and the other guy's like a liberal guy. And then,
that's what it would be in 2021. Yeah. That's what the show would be.
One of the episodes, he has to like bail him out of jail for storming the Capitol.
I just am like, this is just something that would have happened 8 years ago in the pop punk scene where guys kept calling each other dads all the time.
Yeah, 100%. The fact that there isn't a pop punk band that got kind of popular back then called My Two Dads is insane to me.
It is insane.
That's why dads only kept 2 members.
It's implied in the band.
I wish they would do a interview with the band Dads, and they explain that's why they named their band Dads. It's because they loved My Two Dads.
They're like, you know, Michael Jacobs, he had the Torkelsons, Boy Meets World, Dinosaurs, but before that,
what started it all?
Why are we talking about that band in 2021?
Oh, sorry. They slipped me a $20 bill.
You think they have $20?
2 men who know each other? There's no way.
I mean, I've met those guys, and I don't think they have $20.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's ever paid them for their music.
I put them on a compilation once. I didn't pay them, so that does make sense.
There you go. Doing it for the exposure, as usual.
I think I gave away my copy of American Rad Ass or whatever that album was called.
So yeah, well, this is our dad's podcast where we talk about the band dads.
And how it relates.
The Dad Pod.
Dad Pod.
Can you make a podcast where you talk about a song by dads and relate it to an episode of My Two Dads? Is that possible?
Oh, you're talking about our other podcast, No Scrubs, where we talk about the show Scrubs, but we don't actually talk about the show Scrubs.
You can't reveal that concept, Tim. That's our future concept. Is me, Tim, and Zach are gonna have a podcast called No Scrubs. We're gonna name every episode after an episode of Scrubs, but we're not allowed to talk about Scrubs. That's the one thing we can't discuss.
I mean, honestly, that's kind of perfect because you get people in, you reel them in thinking it's about Scrubs, and then it's not.
Yeah, just the old
that's
switch.
Perfect for me because I hate that show, but I would like listening to you guys talk about not that show. So
it sucks though because we won't be able to talk about the song Scrubs either because that's still Scrubs. Like it's gonna be
true.
And if I become a nurse, I won't be able to discuss clothing.
No, not at all. Do you think you could get like? Do you think you could trick Zach Braff to coming on that show and then not talk about Scrubs like at all?
Just at all?
Honestly, I think he'd like that.
Yeah, probably
like that.
I'm holding out for the Ghost of Left Eye if we're gonna have a show called No Scrubs.
True.
But yeah, so this episode, as I said, directed by Mark Bruhl, written by Rob Yulin. It's the summary, a quick summary that I pulled somewhere off the internet is an important lesson is learned by all when Robbie brings him a mysterious happy plant, which makes everyone feel all groovy like. As things spiral out of control, Fran finally has to put her foot down.
Yeah, Fran has to save this fucking family.
I gotta tell you, like, you told me that I was doing this episode, and like I wasn't excited about it by any means, because drug episodes of any show are always like lame.
Yes,
but
That's the point of the episode.
I gotta say that I was right. This is the worst episode possible. Also, they changed it on Disney Plus to where it's like the 9th episode in the season instead of the 17th for some reason. I don't know why they rearranged the seasons. It's not like it's a serial show where you need to have like everything in the same thing, but it still seems weird. And it also seems weird that Disney wasn't like, oh, we're just gonna get rid of this episode because it's about drugs or whatever.
Yeah, I know it didn't play in syndication originally.
Oh, really? It didn't?
Yeah, they just, after it aired, I believe, did not play syndication. A few of them didn't, but like they came back for streaming. What's funny is like when it originally went on streaming, they took out the Jimi Hendrix song from the episode later on. Yeah. But Disney Plus held to their guns. Disney Plus probably owns Jimi Hendrix's work or some shit.
I would almost bet, because there's 2 music cues in this that I was like, you guys spent the fucking money to have this? This is insane. Because there's a Cream song and then there's a Jimi Hendrix song, and I was like, oh wait, I bet somewhere down the line Disney owns whatever record company owns the rights to these songs, and they're like, we don't care at all. We'll just put it in there.
That's true.
Yeah, like I think it's like a weird cover. I don't know if it's the actual song.
Oh, well, yeah, it is a weird cover. It's the Triceratops dinosaur singing it. So
it's definitely,
you're right about that. That's not Jimi Hendrix.
It's not Jimi Hendrix.
No, it's George Jefferson.
It is, yeah, it is Sherman Hemsley. So Tim, do you want to start us with our walkthrough?
Yeah, but first, we usually, with our guests, Justin,
you're right.
We like to ask them what relationship do you have to the show? Like, did you watch it as a kid, or did you discover it later, or do you not remember it at all?
As you can see from my shirt, I'm a big dinosaur person. I have several dinosaur button-down shirts. I love all things dinosaurs.
And he was recreated from blood in a mosquito trapped in amber.
True.
Big dinosaur person.
A dinosaur.
There's several puppeteers off to the side that you can't see that are operating my body right now. No, I loved dinosaurs. When I was a kid, this was like the greatest show in the world to me, because Muppets were like my favorite thing when I was a child. I love everything the Henson family's like really ever done. Like Dark Crystal was my favorite movie when I was a kid, all that kind of stuff. So dinosaurs to me was like, oh, there's a sitcom about dinosaurs and it's done by the Henson Corporation. Like, you can sign me up immediately. And then like going back and watching this after it not being around for 30 years, I felt like maybe it should have stayed in my memory, like I shouldn't have watched this, because like it didn't ruin it for me, but it definitely like got, it's one of those things where like when you play a video game that you love a lot, and then like later on you see that game 20 years later and you're like, oh, this thing's a fucking hunk of shit. I don't know why anybody played this to begin with. It's that same like weird dissonance, because in your head it's so crisp and clear and you know what it is and like you love it so much, but then going back and revisiting it, that shine is off this for sure for me. I'm just like, wow, this is fucking rough to watch.
So you're like the like maybe the third person who's kind of had the same feelings about this show. Yeah. Like Woody, our friend Woody, was very confused and mad about the consistency of the episode we gave him. And then Aaron Keith also just hated, like, she found the dinosaurs terrifying.
But she also had an origin story where she forgot she had seen Labyrinth as a kid and then thought she had imagined it and had nightmares about it all the time, and was describing her nightmares to somebody in college, and they were like, bitch, you mean the Labyrinth? That's a movie. You didn't make that up.
And if you did make it up and no one else knew about it, you should go sell it to Hollywood because you would.
Jim Henson will spend all his money making it.
Yeah. And then he'll die of a cold later on because he did. I'm sorry, I shouldn't bring up. I went to the Henson exhibit at the COSI, the Columbus Science Museum.
Oh, really?
Like last year, and it was amazing because they had all the old puppets there. They had a bunch of stuff from Labyrinth there, like all the costumes and some of the puppets and stuff from that. Dark Crystal, they had a bunch of things from that there. But they had like the original puppets that he made and like went through his whole life and all this creative stuff. So like I'm a big fan, but they completely gloss over dinosaurs. They don't mention anything about, because he was, I think, didn't he come up with the concept for it? He was dead at the time when it came out, but he was the one who came up with the concept before, and then his son kind of carried it out. But but it's also, it was a retrospective of not just his work, it was like the entire Henson company, but they do not mention dinosaurs at all.
That's so wild.
Entire exhibit, which is strange because it was a big hit, wasn't it? Wasn't it pretty big?
It did really. It was on for 65 episodes. Like it was prime time the whole time. Like, it was part of the TGIF lineup.
Was it really? I didn't know that. I didn't know it was like I didn't know it was part of TGIF, that's a big hallmark for like any sitcom back then, was like if you were part of TGIF, then you were all automatically huge.
You were automatically making money because people were going to be watching no matter what.
And like,
which is insane.
It's maybe they glossed over it because of like the visual aspect of the museum, maybe because none of the puppets have survived except for Baby. Like none of them.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Oh my God,
they have the molds. They have the molds so they can recreate them, but the Baby is the only one that wasn't made out of a type of material that they had to remake the molds pretty often because they disintegrate.
Oh, was it made out of that same material that the TMNT things were made out of because they didn't survive after those movies and shit?
Possibly.
Yeah, it has to be because that was the whole reason they made dinosaurs, is because of TMNT.
Did Vanilla Ice buy the dinosaurs puppets too?
He should have.
If he did, I'm sure he probably had to sell them because
no, the best part is, so Vanilla Ice bought the TMNT, the original, those puppets that the people wore, like those suits. He bought them and restored them because there's 3 of them in his newest music video. He has them restored, and people are like in the puppet suits, like dancing around and shit. It's like, God, you made a fucking career off that one song on Secret of the Ooze, and like you were just gonna go for it, I guess. But yeah, he owns the original thing, so I was like, well, if he owns that, maybe he owns the dinosaur suits also.
So what I just found out yesterday, you might know this, Justin. Jacob Tippy's mom helped create Henson's Creature Shop.
No, is that true? I mean, it makes total sense because his life is so crazy, and everything that I know about him is the most...
story. Like, all I knew was Ben was just like sending screenshots of their conversation, and just like reading the story about like his mom and everything. It was like insane. It was like a crazy story.
Yeah, she made Barkley the dog on Sesame Street. She was in charge of making the pod people in Dark Crystal, and she was one of the fireys in the Labyrinth, throwing around their heads. And she also designed like that big motherfucker from the Labyrinth, the big fuzzy guy.
Wow, that's nuts.
And she met Jacob's dad while in England, like working for Henson because they couldn't get funding in America. So they went to England originally, and she was sent over to England to do this. And Jacob's dad put out a personal ad pretending he was the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and she responded to it. And that's how he was born into this world.
If there was any other story, I wouldn't. That's the most believable origin story for Jacob. Like, honestly, really like after knowing a lot of things about his life, I'm like, yeah, that makes total sense. You came from a Hunchback of Notre Dame personal
Muppet existence. Yeah, him and his mom he said that she would probably love to be on the podcast because she has sharp memory. So we're gonna figure that out at some point in the near future, because that's
tight.
Yeah, somebody just messaged me and was like, you should message Jacob Tippy about like Muppets because his mom blah blah blah. I was like, what? Why do I not know this? And I brought up with our producer. I'm saying this for the audience, everybody knows Zach, but I brought up to Zach, and and he was just like, yeah, I knew that and forgot it. And I was like, it seems like pretty relevant information for what we do here.
Yeah, especially I feel like if I knew that about someone's parent, I would remember it always. Like,
well, yeah, I don't think Zach has a Muppet fixation though. I feel like it's a little different.
That's true. That's true.
He's into Dr.
Well, he definitely has a Muppet fixation. It's just not like
It's purely sexual.
exactly.
Sex only for him with Muppets.
Yeah, he doesn't kiss them. It's just money on the dresser after it's done. That's it.
He hates how concealed Bert and Ernie are with their lifestyle. Like he can't.
Yeah, talk about my two dads. Look at those guys.
The son is the ducky.
Would have been a way better story. But it's okay. So you were a Dinosaurs fan growing up. I promise some of it still holds up.
I'm sure it does. Like this definitely, because this is like a one-off episode that they were kind of forced to make, right? Because like all sitcoms at that time were forced to make an anti-drug episode, and they even make a point of making fun of it at the end of the episode and stuff. So like I can imagine this one doesn't hold up well, because if there's one thing that doesn't serve comedy, it's telling them that they have to like go against something that I guarantee almost every writer in the room was doing at the time, if not harder drugs than the Happy Leaf thing, you know.
Yeah.
I think Tim mentioned this episode when we interviewed him, and he said that it was kind of like a more like a Michael Jacobs call, I think.
Yeah.
But I think they wanted to make fun of it because they had been doing drug episodes for like every show that they run. So
that makes sense.
So they were like, well, everyone had to respond to the atmosphere or whatever, and which is just, it's an annoying premise. Very special episodes in general are just annoying. Like there aren't a lot of good ones.
There's not very many I can even think of that like stick out in my mind as being something that you remember because it was good at what it did. It's always because it fails miserably at doing anything other than making people want to go do drugs.
Yeah. So I'm assuming we're all thinking of Saved by the Bell. If you remember the addiction to like, was it like diet pills or like, I don't even think it was that. It was like caffeine. Like,
yeah, it was caffeine pills. Yeah. Jessie Spano had the thing where she did the caffeine, and then she does the, I'm so excited, I'm so scared moment.
Yeah.
And then, but there was also like the weird episode where they meet that guy Johnny Dakota who comes to their high school, and he's like an actor or whatever, and the whole episode is like anti-drug. Then they go to his like party at his penthouse, and he's like smoking weed, and they're like, I can't believe it. And it's like he doesn't give a shit about them because they're high school kids. He's just trying to fuck Kelly like the entire time and tries to get her to smoke weed with them. And it's like that's an interesting episode, you know what I mean? Like the one with caffeine pills is like, all right, I mean, just stop doing caffeine pills. Caffeine pills.
Yeah. I just would like to, I'm going to take like all the clips from that episode and mix it in with Requiem for a Dream as one of the stories happening.
Yeah, just intersplice her doing that like dancing part where she's singing that song, and then like what's his name getting his arm cut off.
Yeah. Then you can just put Screech going ass to ass. That sounds like that's my next podcast. Welcome back to Ass with Screech.
No, he's dead.
He did die recently. I did forget about that for a minute.
I just thought it was funny that everybody thought he died before that in a prison riot.
What?
So the popular thing that went around for a couple of years was that he was dead and he died in a prison riot, and that was even up until the week before he died. I heard somebody say that, and I was like, no, he's alive. He did like stand up and stuff, telling stories from being on. He's an asshole.
Yeah,
like, he's kind of a shithead, but like he didn't die in a prison riot.
I love there's that picture of him with like that Dopamines record that he bought.
Yeah.
That's what I think about.
I do too. Yeah, for sure.
He was in prison for being a dick. So then he died at the prison riot.
Justin, did you ever go to the fest?
Yeah, I went to Fest 2 and 3, I think. Yeah. And then like I haven't been in years though, obviously. But
I was just thinking about because like seeing Dopamines in Cincinnati versus at the fest is really funny because at Cincinnati most times there's like 8 people like who show up. Then at the fest it's like everyone is there to watch the Dopamines, and it's so fucking weird. It's a weird like the further away from Cincinnati you get, the more people will like the Dopamines, which is a really goofy reverse scenario.
It's probably because they don't have to be around the Dopamines.
They don't have to live that life.
Exactly. Like those 8 people who are there have known them for 20 years. So of course they're there just out of like, you got to do it. But like, yeah, the further you get away, there's like the less of the Venn diagram intersects of like John Weiner shit on my car window, going out. So
yeah, they're good in small Florida doses. Like
right, exactly.
Oh, when they play in Florida, it's scary. I almost died.
That's what it's like here, but with less people. Because everyone is still throwing full beers at each other.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's terrible.
Or throwing allegedly throwing a Jack Daniels bottle at the guy from Off of Their Heads at that one show in Cincinnati.
That's a terrible gimmick.
He whined about that so much on his podcast. I love it.
I know. I think that's so funny. And it's like, if he hasn't discovered doing that podcast by now that he kind of deserved it, even if I'm still dubious as to whether it happened, then he's just being willfully fucking ignorant at this point.
I was there. I didn't see a bottle of Jack Daniels get thrown. I saw beer cans. That's all I saw. And that's, obviously you get embarrassed being from Cincinnati when people don't stop throwing the beer cans after the means leave the stage, and then they're just throwing beer cans at everybody.
It is true. It is true, but it's like, I don't know. Like, that's the other thing though, is that you come here, you kind of know what is going to happen, especially during that era, because that was what we were like kind of known for in the city as far as the punk scene goes, is just throwing fucking beer cans at people.
Yeah.
I don't know why people took that out of the basement and they were just like, we're going to do this everywhere. And
who brought it to Florida? It's not like
we bring everything to Florida from Ohio. That's literally a direct thing there's a skyline in Florida. You get beer cans thrown at you. Sorry.
Yeah, and it's right. It's in the same, not the same county, but like the adjacent county where they play. They played in Tampa. And
they need to be close to the skyline.
The skyline is in Clearwater.
But yeah, I remember even like Leftover Crack didn't play Cincinnati anymore after a while. Like they had a terrible time in Cincinnati. I'm like, but you're Leftover Crack. Like you are a terrible time.
Yeah, exactly. I saw them one time in like 2002 or something like that. Or maybe it was even Choking Victim at that point. And then I saw them again in 2006 at Daniel's Pub at the Holy Grail underneath Daniel's Pub. When after that closed, they opened it to do that show there the one time with Smoke or Fire, and everybody just fucking threw shit at them the entire time. Yeah. They didn't like it, and it's like it's not like they're hurting you. It's an empty beer can. Also, you're a guy who brags about having lice and stuff. Like, calm the fuck down.
Babies in the beat.
Doesn't he have like a bug life tattoo? Because he's like, I'm just gonna get sick with hepatitis all the time, and he's mad about a beer can getting thrown at him. I don't know. But yeah, you got to expect it. They had to expect it back then coming to Cincinnati. I don't think that shit happens as much anymore because everybody who, whether it's good or bad, all those people have like kids and they've moved away from coming to shows and stuff like that.
Yeah. I would think at least during COVID, we don't open the beer can first. We just throw it because it'd be gross to put your mouth on it.
Exactly. I make sure it's like lathered up in a bunch of hand sanitizer and I just launch it. So it's real slippery.
It's a hot potato situation with a beer can.
They're just drinking beer in front of their like 72-inch screen Roku TV, and they're watching a fest live stream and they're throwing beer cans at
destroying it.
Oh, dead bars. I don't know. I just named a random fest band. I don't know who they are or what
But, oh no, Dad's is playing.
God damn it.
Welcome back to the Dad's podcast. So Tim, do you want to start us on this episode?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So we the show opens up with outside of the Sinclair house, the Sinclairity house, the Sinclair house, and all you hear is audio, and it's just Robbie being like, "What do you do with those scissors?" And like Earl's like, "I just want to talk." And then it gets into the house, and he's trying to cut Robbie's spikes.
Yeah, which I guess they're making them hair now. Like occasionally, like in The Simpsons, Bart spikes her hair. But like to me, it's just his head's fucked up. So like I feel like it has to hurt.
It's
that
weird.
would hurt.
it's weird too, because you're right. Like, how is it hair? Because he can move them. Like, they move. They clearly have like nerve endings and shit underneath of them, musculature, and he's just gonna like cut through. Like Earl's doing like amateur surgery at their house.
Imagine going to like the barber and be like, "You be careful. I got some tough hair." He'll fight back.
It's actually part of my muscles, and I can feel it. Like when.
But yeah, it's weird. So he wants to cut him because he says he looks like a girl bum, which is going to be my next fest band. Speaking of that, girl bum.
Yeah, girl bum for sure. I mean, you're gonna get canceled immediately, but
just changes it to person ass.
The first pre-canceled band, girl bum,
not playing fest because they were canceled before they got here.
Playing the new Warped Tour.
Yeah,
I thought it was crazy. Like that part where he says that was so 1991 centric, you know, the idea of that kind of like insane misogyny that only exists now in like Tim Allen sitcoms, that it, like Last Man Standing, it's fine if like the alt-right sitcom, but like now, like in any other thing, you'd be like, no, you can't fucking say that. Don't say that. That's
even just
insane.
like calling somebody a bum now isn't like,
yeah, you can't
nobody
really
does that.
That's a weird, it's a weird left.
You look like you're down on your luck, you piece of
I'm gonna cut your hair, you piece of shit. Get some money.
You're houseless.
Fucking female piece of shit. It's not good. It's not good look, Earl.
It's also weird because it's not like his like things are that long.
No.
You know what I mean? They don't even make an attempt to like add some extensions to it to make it look like it's all crazy and in his face. It looks the same as this picture that's behind me right now.
Yeah.
They just made him like droopy.
Yeah, just for the scene they drooped him a little bit.
Yeah. They must
like
been like a head change or something, or like that they did for this suit. That's all I can think of. Which seems like a lot of work for one gag in the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
You know,
for sure, because it never comes up again.
It makes me think of the scene from SLC Punk where Steve is saying "fuck you" to his parents, and he has that blue mohawk that's like flopping around so bad the whole scene. I'm 18 and I can say "fuck you." That's but this was a pre SLC Punk world, which I never knew.
Right.
I never knew of.
And yeah, so then Earl tries to get Fran on his side. And she's just like, it's whatever, you know, people are wearing their spikes longer. And he's just like, he's like, geez, cripple me.
Yeah. So Earl's not having this Nancy boy bum shit in his house. And I do like the part where Robbie's just like listing the things that Earl gets mad by. He's like, I can't do anything right. And he's just like, that's what I'm saying. Like,
it's so weird because the escalation that happens is so quick. Like that's not even like much of a conversation, and then Robbie just leaves. Like he runs away from home immediately.
He runs away, but then he's also just like, I wish I was never hatched into this.
yeah, exactly. Like he just asks you to cut your hair. You're gonna jump to I wish I was never born.
Teenagers.
Yeah, there's a couple more steps to take, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
In 1991, that's a lot of talking between a dad and a son, though.
That is true. That is true.
Also, Earl does say get out, and then he leaves, and
he's pissed off about it.
Yeah, Earl's like, don't you walk away from me.
Earl's my mom in that scene. That is some shit my mom would do. The amount of times I got kicked out and then left, and then she's like, "What the fuck?" Like,
yeah,
it's like you sent me away. Like, I left. But
yeah. So we cut to Robbie is in the woods with Spike, and Spike's like, "Oh, you did the right thing, you know, like." It's not, I wish it was like the old days when you could beat up your dad and take his territory.
Marry his wife.
They make the joke about marrying his wife, and then they're both like grossed out by it. But why is Spike grossed out by it?
Fran's dick. Like,
yeah.
What's Spike upset about? He can't.
She's like,
pull any better than that.
exactly. I'm also, is Spike like, is he a leftover thing from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2? Did they just repurpose a puppet? Because he looks like one of the
ooze
mutants.
fighting machine, like the ones that are powered by the ooze.
I don't know what he's supposed to be, and I hate his like weird New York slow voice thing.
Yeah, he's voiced by Christopher Milani from Law and Order SVU or whatever.
Is that
the guy from that? Every time we bring this up, Wet Hot American Summer, the cook.
Yeah. He also, you mean the guy I know from Oz, because he shows his dick a bunch in that show. That's all I know him
from Oz.
Yeah, I know him as Spike in Dinosaurs and Dick Guy from Oz.
I think it's funny that he has the same name as the Spike from Land Before Time, because I could see it being the same dinosaur. Like he just like grew up into a piece of shit. Like his whole role in the show is trying to red pill Robbie. Like he just shows up to try to red pill Robbie all the time. Yeah. He's like, before civilization, women did what we told them to. Like that's his whole character.
Yeah. And even here too, he's just like, let's get some food, like
go back to the old days, eat some vegetables, eat some plants because they're slower.
That's what Robbie says. They see like they see a prey animal and they're like, there it is, there's dinner, and then it just fucking bolts. And then like he's like, plants are slower.
That's why people start eating them.
I like how they just immediately just pick up whatever plants nearby and just start chewing on it.
Yeah,
it would have been funnier if at least they got like poisoned kind of one, like
an Alex.
This show, like this episode goes very quick. Like they don't waste any time getting into the weed thing. So it just would have been better if he was out there for a couple of days at least. He's only out there for like 6 hours getting high, and then he comes back.
This is what Into the Wild should have been.
Yeah.
I agree.
I like it though, because I like that you brought up it being poisonous, because like Spike eats it and he's like, oh, I don't know, it doesn't taste poisonous.
Maybe it's an unspoken superpower.
Maybe he's like a koala and he can eat poisonous food.
Yeah, he only sees in 2 dimensions and can't pick up leaves because he's all fucked up from eating eucalyptus all the time.
Which comedian was it who had the whole bit about like boysenberries sounding too much like poisonberries? I mean, like, we named them. Why the fuck would we choose it to sound like poison?
Well, it's a comedian who's talking about food, so Jim Gaffigan immediately is probably.
I thought you were gonna make a panda joke, like a Jim Gaffigan. My girlfriend's a panda.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Jim Gaffigan does have the whole like the food market cornered for comedians.
Yeah, so. You really can't talk about food unless you're him. You have to run it. If you have a food joke, you have to run it by him first, and then he's like, okay, you can do it.
He's like, give me a second, I gotta brush these 18 children off my lap so I can in his Catholic homestead.
And if you don't, he'll accuse you of stealing his food joke.
Exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, they start eating this happy plant, and then they start, they're high. Okay, which if you've eaten weed before, which we all have, even though Tim's straight edge for one, but it's just like, obviously it wouldn't work that way. But maybe dinosaurs, I don't know, we don't know that about dinosaurs. Maybe that's how they digest weed.
Well, that was what I was thinking when I was watching this, was like, this is so bizarre, because I've smoked weed a fair amount in my life, and I've had edibles and stuff, but like their level of euphoria is beyond any. This must be the greatest, and I don't know if it's specifically, I know it's supposed to be a stand-in for weed, but I don't know what the plan is. But if it is weed, this is like the greatest weed that's ever existed.
It's all about the strain, bruh. Like,
you just haven't found the right strain.
You're right. That shit, it did seem like a lot of indica they were having right there, man. It's a real body high.
Maybe people that don't have any depression or mental health issues, when they smoke weed, they're already starting from okay. So then it's just amazing. They're like,
I guess so, but then it works on Earl like the same way.
It's true. Earl has issues.
He has like a lot of shit. Yeah, he has a lot of shit going on. He's mad as fuck all the time.
Yeah, so they're like just laughing and goofing off in the forest, and
they start talking about their favorite band dads.
Yeah, and he's just like, Robbie is just like, I wish my dad was here. I love him. And then I love when Spike's just like, I love your dad too. He's like, I love everybody's dad.
This is why Spike was not interested in Fran. Now I understand. He's holding out for Earl.
He wants that big bear, that flannel bear.
Exactly. He wants that John Goodman looking motherfucker.
So
I also just love that Robbie says he's like, oh, I love my dad. He was right, like whatever, and he's gonna go home and tell him he's right. But Robbie doesn't go home and have his hair isn't cut. Like you would think if he was right, he would have immediately like cut his hair off or whatever, or picked up like a sharp rock and like, started so they could illustrate the dangers of this drug immediately. But he doesn't do anything. He's just like real high and happy and is like, I'm gonna go hang out with my dad now.
Imagine the scene though if he walks in the house bleeding because he got the top of his head off.
So much better, 100 times better.
It's a 5-minute episode. He just dies bleeding out on the floor.
Robbie, why? And then Earl becomes addicted to the plant because he can't deal with his son's
it's all
death.
you gotta be happy. Yeah. So Robbie comes back not bleeding, but he is stoned. And he's like, the prodigal son returns. You want to live under daddy's roof and eat daddy's food.
Spike wishes he was here for that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He even get a big old dinosaur bone on about that shit.
Yeah, but there is a moment in this part where I completely I sympathize with Earl. I understood what he meant because Robbie's just like, he's like, you know what? You were right, Dad. I was wrong. And Earl is just like, are we having a touching moment or are you teasing me? Because I feel like I have many interactions like that with people where it's just like, wait, are you making fun of me?
If anyone's too nice for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, it definitely would come across that way. But, Robbie tells him about the happy plant he ate. And Earl's just like, that's stupid. Plants can't make you happy. Earl only eats meat too, to clarify. Like he wouldn't eat plants to begin with, but he gives it a shot because Earl will try anything twice. It's his thing.
It's pretty adventurous of him, honestly, to just like trust that Robbie's just after berating Robbie for being the dumbest human being or dumbest dinosaur on Earth.
Dinosaur being.
He then trusts that Robbie has enough judgment to bring home a strange plant that he can try. Like doesn't.
Yeah, I guess if I just like went outside and pulled some plants on the ground and came home, my dad would be like, "Fuck you!" Like, this
exactly. I'm not eating this plant. Like, what? Where did you get it? And he's in a swamp, and it's like, oh well,
You're
then I'm definitely not fucking eating it.
Are you on the pot, son? Are you on the pot?
Why do you smoke weed, dog?
I have that dog from that commercial tattooed on me, so I feel that anti-weed ad pretty strong. But yeah, so now Earl eats the plant too, I guess, which means he smoked it. And then it cuts into like a dance number with
it is. So this part is fucking nuts to me because there's two things that happen. First, he eats it and immediately is just fucked up beyond belief. But then like they're just hanging out and they start singing that what is it? Most unusual day. So either that assumes that the dinosaurs are making up this song on the spot, or this song that's literally from the Great American Songbook is something that they are aware of.
Yeah, it's like it's canon.
What happens? I don't understand. Does this mean they live in America? They're American dinosaurs, and
we have established that.
Oh,
well,
because there's redwood trees, so we assume possibly California.
But when we watch the clip show, they're finding their house or the remains of their house in the Serengeti. So we don't know where they live.
Serengeti is my favorite Italian dish with meatballs.
Yeah, that stuff's good.
I saw a Family Circus comic.
Really,
and meatballs.
But yeah, so we do know. So we don't know if they invented that song on the spot, but we do know that Earl is a former dance instructor. Like that was his dream, was to become a dance instructor.
Yeah, so he's very into like he does like a chorus line in another episode.
Yeah.
Like
He
he's
loves
a
to,
dancer.
perform.
It's also established that they have barbershop quartet props just in their house playing around because they
That's
put
his
on
whole
the
thing.
straw hats.
Yeah.
But then it's weird towards the end of that song because they get a little like weirdly intimate. Like
They are
because
holding
Robbie's
each other
like
real
holding
close.
him, like it's weird. But then again, I also did write down in my notes that I like this version of Earl a lot more than the normal Earl.
Oh yeah, because Earl
For whatever.
sucks.
Yeah, he's not great. He was always the part of the show that I did not like when I was a child. Not because he reminded me of my dad or anything, but just because I was like, this guy's kind of a fucking asshole all the time for no reason whatsoever.
Just rude to
I know
his wife and his kid.
Yeah, he's rude to his wife. Like the baby hits him with a pan, and it's like, yeah, you should, because this guy needs somebody to hit him with a fucking pan.
Yeah, the baby was born immediately. Was like, this guy sucks. I'm just gonna deal with this.
Yeah.
But
the baby sucks too, but it's whatever. They
But the baby's behavior is informed by Earl's behavior, so it's good.
True. But
and television, of course. That's why he.
The baby is TV obsessed.
Because he loves violence.
This is one of those shows, Justin, where there's like a few episodes every season about why TV is bad, and it's like, but TV is telling me this.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of dissonance happening here that doesn't make much sense.
Yeah. So after they're done dancing, which I assume they did it all night long, like they were up all night.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're on a fucking bender already.
Yeah.
They've already established this is Molly. This can't be weed.
Yeah, true. You know what? Actually, maybe you're closer to the
at least ecstasy, like in the early 90s, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're just like Earl and Robbie are just rubbing against each other all night long. Spike's not even there to see it. This is upsetting.
Yeah, poor Spike.
So they stayed up all night and they're done dancing and it's the morning. So Charlene comes in and just like they're just like, oh, look at Charlene. Like they didn't remember who she was.
Yeah. Another thing about the portrayal of weed in media that's bizarre is all the things that they think go along with it, or they think that the normal person thinks goes along with it, which is constantly forgetting everything, including people that are in your family, and then being super excited about everything you forgot once you discover it again. This never fucking happened ever to anybody.
You don't want any of this, Dewey. It'll make you forget your family. No, I just like this part because Charlene immediately goes into commercial mode for a second, where she's like, "You guys have changed," as if she already knows somehow. But yeah, then Charlene gets stoned with them, which is a treat for them.
Mega stoned for sure. And then they get reminded that he has to go to work or whatever.
Oh yeah, because Fran comes in now and she's interested in the plant makes them happy. She's like, oh, it sounds healthy or whatever. And then Robbie immediately, like at midway through the conversation, like, hey, look, it's Mom.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ. He was so lost in his dad's eyes. He didn't even notice Fran walk in.
Yeah. Well, he was probably sitting thinking about the romantic evening his father and him just had, and he was just off daydreaming.
Yeah. And then Fran's just like, well, like, aren't you going to be late for work, Earl? And he's like, oh yeah. And then he gets up and he stands and he turns to the side and then he's like, wait a minute. And he starts giggling. He's like, I just realized I don't wear any pants.
Yeah.
We've all had guys pull that move on us.
Is there a precedent in the dinosaurs universe of people wearing pants or dinosaurs wearing pants or no?
Only one dinosaur wears pants, right? Is that what we established?
Who was it though? I don't remember.
I don't know, but none of them do.
Yeah, none of the family do.
Baby wears a diaper. That's kind of like pants.
It's kind of like pants. No, I guess like there's one line in an episode where they talk about the invention of the refrigerator, and Earl was talking about before they had refrigerators, if you were hungry in the middle of the night, you had to put your pants on to go hunt down some animals.
That's what it is. Yeah.
I wonder what happened in the dinosaur society that made pants no longer
their dicks got too big. Them pussies got too fat. Pants couldn't handle it.
Pants can't handle me right now.
Same thing. They tried to put clothes on Rexy in Jurassic Park. It just didn't work out. She's burst right out of this.
God damn it. And so Earl eventually goes to work, and I love your notes here, Ben, because you say Earl sachets his happy way.
That's what he was doing. He was sashaying.
He's happy, and he's walking, and all the trees are coming down behind him, and he's just not paying attention.
Yeah, and everybody's like, "You fucking idiot! What are you doing?"
Every moment is the happiest moment of his life. He just keeps rediscovering how happy he is.
Yeah, and so everyone's like yelling at him, and he's like, "No, guys, I found the key to eternal bliss," and he shares the weed with all his friends, and there Sid Turtlepuss is just like, "Man, Richfield's gonna be mad at you," and Richfield yells, and Earl's just like, "Oh, I love his yell."
Typically,
this version of Earl is so pleasant. It's not like,
I mean, that's how they lure you into these horror stories about weed. It seems so nice.
It's a gateway drug to pleasantries.
it's a gateway drug to acting like a decent human being for once in your life. I love the part where he goes into Richfield's office because, obviously anytime Richfield's yelling at him, it's great in these episodes, any episode pretty much, because I just like seeing Earl just get the shit beat out of him for whatever reason. But like this part's particularly funny to me because he says to Earl like something, I can't remember what it is exactly, but he says like, "You can't do this, the union will be on my ass about it," or something.
If he eats his family.
Yeah, that's right. But then he immediately says that Earl's fired. And it's like, well, first of all, if Earl belongs to a union, you can't fire him right then for that. So like the union's going to be on your ass one way or the other.
So you should just eat his family. That's what
I just don't think Richfield has an understanding of how unions work, or the people who are in a union writing this show understand how unions work, because you can't be fired for what happened there. He literally was just late to work. That's all that happened.
Well, he said he'd rather bite his head off and spit down his throat.
I know that. See, that would get the management fired, not the guy in the union. I used to work at a union shop for years. I know.
Spike would have been excited about getting it spit down his throat.
Oh, say that again.
Yeah.
Do you think this entire episode, could we just say that this entire episode is an erotic fiction wrote by Spike?
Yeah,
by
for sure.
That's what Spike is dreaming of while he's sleeping in the woods for a week.
Just high out of his mind, just thinking of erotic like moments.
And it's even more erotic because after he fires Earl, he gives Richfield a kiss on the lips. That's right.
That's the best moment of the entire episode. Is when he kisses
for
him.
sure.
We have almost established that Earl is like wants Richfield to love him. Like,
there's a few times. There's a few times where Earl there's a time where Earl's impersonating Richfield so that people think he's talking to him in the other room, but Richfield starts hitting on him in the impersonation of it. Like, but also Earl also makes out with a mirror in one episode. I think Earl's just into himself, and no matter, he wants everyone to be as into him as he is.
Like, do you think Earl like looks at Richfield as like kind of a father figure, and he has the same Spike like father erotica shit going on in his head too?
For sure.
Yeah, I think he just wants to be accepted by his boss.
If you've read A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking, the whole theory is that the world sits upon a tower of daddy issues, and it's daddy issues all the way down. It's all dad fanfic erotica all the way down.
And he specifically points out Dinosaurs, the TV show, as being one of the main examples.
It's like it was all hidden in this TV show.
Yeah. So we cut back, and I guess it's technically been a week now, and all this Robbie, Earl, and Charlene are sitting at the kitchen table, and it starts playing Cream in the like it just plays like the first bar of like the note, and then it stops. It gets like cut off, at least on the Disney Plus version.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Cash rules everything around me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the only one not stoned is Baby, but Baby's asking for food because her was so stoned that they don't give a shit.
He just wants some juice, you know?
Yeah.
He needs it.
He's being neglected.
I would argue that Baby doesn't need any more juice, though. I would think that this is an okay moment for him to not get what he wants all the time.
He's got to learn somehow.
He needs more meat bottles. So
Yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, I was say yeah. He drinks 100% meat in his bottle. It's really weird. But Robbie does the thing where he thinks that they're being watched by the government or something, or they're a TV show in another dimension. And
I thought that was a weird fourth wall break to me. Like when they just offhandedly mentioned that, and I was just like, why would you? This is so dumb. This is the easiest joke you could make.
I know it's a big eye roll. Legit. I was like, okay, like him looking to each of the stage cameras for it, like
yeah. He like moves his finger and it follows him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like Charlene's like, whoa, she's like, maybe our lives are on TV in some universe, and if they stop watching, we cease to exist. I think they were pleading not to get canceled. I think that's what.
Look, if you're paying writers $20,000 an episode, then you're gonna probably get canceled at that point. That's a lot.
And then does the thing where Earl notices that he has like 8 fingers, so he's like, why do we count by tens if we have 8 fingers? Which, like, why would he even know that's a basis for anything if like
they know what base 10 mathematics is, but then again if they live in an America thing, then he wouldn't say that. Why do we count by tens? Because we don't. So it's like,
exactly
what's happening in this episode.
That's their dinosaur pun, is because the word meters have meat in it. They heard my joke from before the episode and put it into their world.
Yeah, they heard it time. They traveled through time to hear you make that joke, and then they put it in.
So they have Simpson fingers, but they also most dinosaurs would either have 2 or 3. Like they don't. Not many have 4. So.
Yeah, 3 is all you need to get the work done. That's what my mom always says. So yeah, they're all
one long one in the middle.
So they're all stoned. That's the whole thing.
Yeah,
and they all start laughing at the baby because they think it's funny the way he moves around and shit. Which is fine.
Yeah, like Robbie's just like, hey, look, it's a baby. Like he doesn't, like he doesn't know who he is.
Is this like a weird like dementia plant for a moment, and then
they're huffing paint. It just like it keeps cutting away right before they actually pull a paint can out.
Yeah, like all those jars behind them are just empty glue jars.
They're a bunch of glue sniffers.
But yeah, then baby smacks them all with the juice bottle, and then they all just go again.
Yeah, it's a good role reversal moment.
But yeah, so Fran comes home, and this is, I guess, the first time she knows that they haven't been going to work or school
for a week.
It's been a week,
entire week,
because Earl was standing out in the driveway all day originally.
Yeah, but like,
how did she miss that? It's insane. When he says I was standing out the driveway all day, it's like, then everyone saw you. Like she would have seen you. There's no fucking way. And what was he doing?
Just standing. That was terrifying. I imagine it just catatonic standing in a driveway. I imagine in a robe.
Yeah, like he's on fucking pills, just like standing.
Yeah, just like staring at the sun.
He's a Valium housewife.
He's a fucking Florida man.
that would explain a lot.
Yeah. And so
what does he say after that? He says he stood in the driveway the first day, and then he did something else.
Like, he went back to school. He went to school.
That's right. And I was like, hold on, you can't
go to Billy Madison.
You can't go to work, but you enrolled in school and have been going. But like Robbie can't remember to go to school. You did all this. It's insane. That's insane.
As he tells Fran, he's like, he enrolled in high school, but then he got sent back to junior high
because he had trouble socializing. But he's past his awkward phase now. He's making friends. He's going out for cheerleading.
Yeah, because later on he's dressed as a cheerleader, like a 1950s cheerleader with the cardigan on, and he says he missed the big game or whatever.
gonna miss the pep rally.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. The pep rally. God.
Yeah. So Fran realizes they ate all the food, and they even finished the baking soda. And they have no food or money, so he says, "We'll live on love." So,
and then she like picks up the baby and leaves, right?
No, she drags him to work, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, because that's the part where Richfield has like sings Purple Haze, and then you're like, okay, you spent a lot of money on this for no reason, no discernible reason whatsoever.
Well, yeah, she's like, I'm gonna take you back to your workplace where everyone is like a nice healthy work environment, and it cuts to all his coworkers in a conga line doing the butt pop.
That was so. I wrote down that this was like, this part has like two of my favorite gags. Is that conga line is great, and the paranoid dinosaur is the greatest thing. I love him when he first shows up, because he's like, they're all like stoked on the plant, and then he's like, not me, man. Like, I don't like this at all, because I think everybody's talking about me and I don't like it. But when they go in the trailer and he pops his head in the door and he's like, "Are you guys talking about me?" I fucking lost it. That is a good joke. It was so funny.
That's me. That's like, I used to smoke weed a lot, and it was no issue ever. And then just like a couple years ago, it's almost half the time or more, I'll just be way too paranoid. And there's no reason. I'll like delete my internet history, and I'm like, what do I think the FBI thinks I'm up to? Like, I haven't bought guns online or anything.
You got cameras watching you. Like,
oh yeah, maybe your life is a sitcom in another universe.
Yeah. So sorry, Roy refers to him as Eduardo. So I guess his name is Ed.
It's Ed. Yeah.
And so Earl comes in, and they go to Richfield's office, and all you hear is Purple Haze by Jimi Hendrix, and he's like singing along to it, and it's great. Like, I can't believe they got the rights for this.
Yeah, it's a good it's a really good moment. And my favorite is then they're talking to Richfield, and of course, like, Fran is the only one who isn't fucked up at this point. So she's just watching, and it did remind me of, like, she's kind of the person who, like, when you're around a bunch of high people, you get so sick of them if you're not high. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is kind of a relatable scene if you've ever been around like three or more people who are super high and you're sober, and you're just watching them have the dumbest conversation on earth.
But last weekend.
Because you're a straight edge guy in a band full of not straight edge people.
That'll do it. That would do it for sure. But I just thought my favorite part about this was like Richfield's explanation of what they should do as a company. Nothing. And how he's just like, we should just get high and people should pay us and we'll just be happy all the time. And I was like, oh, okay, so Richfield's like the Andrew Yang of fucking dinosaurs. He's like stumping for universal basic income. Yeah. And like, you know, before, and it's like, yeah, his example of how life should be is pretty great.
This is the future liberals want.
100% is. If this is what it is, yes, I want to be a dinosaur who writes daddy fan fiction, erotic fan fiction, and be fucking just paid to hang out and eat that plant.
Yeah. The gas, as he referred, he says gas, so he wants that gas. He's on that gas.
I do like that when
Travis Scott of dinosaurs.
Yeah. When the phone call interrupts them and he answers like, "If you've got a dime, I've got the time."
also when the phone rings too, he's like, "Hey, wait, chill." So he can answer the phone.
It's great. So good. It's really, that scene is really good. I don't know. It was like the one part of the episode where I was like, yeah, okay, I'm into it. Like I got this. But
the whole taking the call while in a room full of high people reminds me of two things. One, it just reminds me of a time where my friend like drove down to have band practice with us, even though he wasn't supposed to drive. Like he drove from Dayton to Cincinnati, and he was like 17 at the time, and his mom would have been pissed if she knew. And the first thing he did was accidentally just text his mom right away, like, I'm down in Cincinnati. Don't tell mom. Like, shit, we were all stoned. And then another is a story from this guy JPC on Hey Bro Riddle. he has a story about when him and his friends were on shrooms, and they were like talking about that, how they had to like walk past his friend's dad to get to his friend's room to go back home, and his friend's like, we can't go past him. Like, he normally doesn't say anything to me, but what if he does this time? I won't know how to react. And he's like, look, it's easy to talk to parents when you're high. Look, I'm gonna call my mom. Then he calls mom, and he goes, hey mom, I'm on shrooms, and wait, shit.
I thought you were gonna do a don't wake a daddy joke.
Don't wake daddy joke. That's Spike's second book.
He's the one who created that board game. Except it was called Do Wake Daddy because he wanted to get caught.
He also wrote Hop on Pop for Dr. Seuss.
So Richfield takes the phone call and he's like, yeah, crazy, dig it, out of sight. There we gone. And then he's like, well, I've been fired. And he's just playing, he doesn't care. He's just like playing the guitar. And honestly, Richfield shouldn't care because he's fucking rich. So like, who cares? He doesn't care.
He starts to pretend to play air guitar as the scene.
Yeah. And one of his horns is painted red.
And his whole trailer is like day glow graffiti with black lights on it.
And so we cut back to the house, and the three of them, Earl, Charlene, and Robbie, are just fucking zonked out. They're like hungover, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, because they're like coming down finally from whatever.
Yeah, and they're just like, oh, I feel so bad. And Earl slept through the big game. and so they all start freaking out. They're like, I can't find any more. We don't have any more. We just got seeds and stems.
This is like the house is entirely wrecked, just complete like shit mess.
Yeah, there's just like naked branches all over the house.
And they've just been sleeping on one giant blanket or like a tarp or something, and I can't tell if like that's supposed to be like, oh, it's like they're drugged in now and they're just like fucked up going to the bathroom in the corners and stuff. And
guys live in apartments like this and see no problem.
You're right.
It's like, bitch, you live like this.
But it's also weird because like he's in his house, like there are bedrooms.
Yeah.
They know like, to go up the stairs.
You see, the dangers of marijuana is there's no way somebody stoned forgets there's a warm, comfy bed somewhere.
Fuck no, absolutely.
Immediately on their mind.
100%. You are thinking about it the entire time. Like, I can't wait to get back to that.
A dirty mattress, a dirty box spring. The floor.
There's a front bottom song now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just add talking about a map and how some girl doesn't like you, and then you got yourself a hit right
front
there.
Bottoms hit. But
Charlene manages to find a single leaf, and they start fighting each other. And Fran comes in. She's just like, "Oh my god, look at yourselves! Like the house is a mess. Like
half-eaten food everywhere."
Yeah, and she's like, "You guys are gonna ruin your lives." So she's like, I'm gonna take baby and go to Monica. So,
I love, my favorite part is the response to this is Earl's like, cool, I'm gonna go get fucked up.
Well, he just starts freaking out. Yeah, he's just like, they become total addicts. Like they're just like, I gotta find it. And like even in the next scene that we do, when they find the plant and Spike, who's like laying on the floor, and
Spike is falling and he can't get up. He quits the life alert.
Yeah, and he's like, he hands him, he's like, here, take some plant. He's like, pass it around, and like Robbie and Charlene are like, should we do it? They're like, no. And then Earl takes it and his hand is shaking. He's like, the plant. He's like, his hand is shaking.
I noticed that, and I love that little detail is great because he's just like out of his mind. Also, like Spike is stoked that Earl's there.
Yeah. He's like naked. Oh, you found me.
I'm your little wood nymph.
Also, we can't forget, like, not only did they do a I've fallen and I can't get up joke, but they also did a this is your brain on drugs joke.
Yeah, because his baby hits him with the pan because that's his
the pan from the commercial.
That part I was just like, oh my god, fuck off.
And the baby has the smuggest a puppet could ever look.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I knew that baby looked like Ian Kai.
Yeah. Well, bald and pink, so yeah.
That part is cool. I like that Spike's just been laying there for however long this is going on. He just like sat down and was like, fuck it. He has like moss growing on his like little eyebrow ridges and stuff. That's so good.
Yeah, and he also like wakes up to the revelation, hey, mom spelled upside down is wow.
Yeah. I wrote down this about that. I was like, Spike is pretty gacked up. I don't know if it was only the plant or if he's only on the plant or has underlying issues that need to be addressed by psychologists.
Yeah.
Because of all the weird mom shit.
And dad shit that he's just thrown out.
Well, I think we know that he's a murderer. Like he ate his teacher.
He had a principal at one of his schools.
He had a principal, but we do not know about if he has any actual family.
Daddy issues all the way down, like I said.
Yeah.
Spike is Stephen Hawking.
And then so seeing Spike puts them all in their senses, they're like, damn, this dude's fucking like, this is not the life. this dude's wrecked.
He's a bum girl.
This girl bum over here.
This girl bum.
Yeah, so they decide they're gonna quit, but Earl's like, no, we can't destroy the plant because we have to be more powerful than the plant. We have to know it's there, which is like that means he's getting it later. That's all.
Yeah, for sure.
So
he's like the guy. He's like the alcoholic who keeps a bottle of whiskey in his house, and is like as a reminder, not because I'm gonna use it at any point, but as a reminder.
No, it's in the cupboards with the spoons and the bowls.
Yeah, it's locked away, so I won't get to it, but I know it's there, lurking. My addiction, whatever. And it's like, no, that's not how this works. You're just waiting to get drunk at some point.
Yeah,
have an excuse.
Yeah. But then they end up like after. Earl makes that big speech about it. It just cuts to the next scene and the plant's just burned. Like they just burned the plant.
Well, because Fran appears and she burns it because she doesn't trust them.
Yeah, which is good because Fran had to get the family back together anyway.
So this could have led to Fran being high now because of them burning it, but they didn't go that direction.
I was real surprised. I was surprised that they didn't make that joke. That it was better when it was burning or something like that. Or they all just are high at the end of the episode. Like
the entire forest is just high now.
Yeah, those little creatures that they tried to eat earlier are just like stoned out of their mind. And they can get them now.
But then we get that scene and then all of a sudden you just hear, all right, cut. And then it goes to Robbie, he's like, hi, I'm Robert Sinclair. But you know me as Robbie Sinclair, the adult theme to mega hit Dinosaur.
Yeah, this is actually I enjoy this scene a lot. It's silly. Like I think Tim Doyle mentioned that he wrote this part, so I thought that was interesting. But yeah, so Robbie just comes out and his whole thing is he's pleading people to quit doing drugs so they can quit making sitcom episodes about it.
Yeah, that was a part that I sort of had a problem with because it's like very reductive of drug abuse. Like it's very reductive of like addiction in general. I don't think it makes the same point that they think it is because they're like winking and nudging that like, see, if you just stop doing this thing, like it's that easy, then we'd stop making episodes of sitcoms that are like this. And it's like, that's not good. This isn't a good message.
Like when your meth addiction makes it so you lose your like wife and your kids.
Just stop doing it.
You don't know how it's affecting sitcoms. And if you knew that is true. If you knew how it affected sitcoms.
Guys, if we would have just stopped smoking meth, we would have never had Breaking Bad. Like there'd be no point to that show.
It's true. So either keep doing drugs so you can make excellent dramas or stop doing drugs so sitcoms will stop making preachy episodes. These are You know, it's not that hard. I mean, just stop doing it.
I do like it when the camera guy is just like, great show, Robbie. He's like, I got a little preachy there.
Yeah, he gives him a high five. I like how Robbie has like a towel. He's like toweling off.
And he gets a nice drink from an intern. And, yeah, it's great.
Robbie definitely would have gotten me too'd if that show continued.
Yeah,
there's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, because Robbie fucks.
I know, he's too horny. You can't.
That fucking girl bum.
Yeah,
that's what the ladies are into these days.
I love those girl bums.
So yeah, I mean that's basically the episode.
Yeah, and it rolls credits there after the preachy.
100%
difference.
Like felt like such a holdover from like Reagan era propaganda, you know.
Yeah.
Like because like George Bush was still kind of pushing the war on drugs at that point and everything. It just feels like gross to watch that episode, to be honest. Just so like Republican, like look at us reducing drug addicts to people who could just quit if they wanted to, you know.
It's Pee Wee Herman smoking crack. That's what that is. Like that.
Right.
Jeez. Yeah. It's I mean, that was sitcoms are just a fucking rare breed to begin with, but especially like early 90s, late 80s, like
yeah, you ain't kidding. They
everything
were like
was black
way
and
in the
white.
pocket. Yeah, they were like way in the pocket of like government shit because they were like, oh, they're gonna give us money to make this episode because of the anti-drug message. Then yeah, we'll do it. Who
Yeah,
cares?
we'll fuck it. None of this means anything. This is ABC.
Yeah.
The only thing I wish is that back during the part when the baby hits Earl with the frying pan is that they had like somehow put an egg on Earl's face and then smashed it like in the commercial.
Yeah,
I think it was a metaphorical egg. Earl
that he hatched from when he was a baby.
That's true.
Speaking of ABC, does it stand for always be cucking, or is that just
Or is that just me?
or is that just me?
Only for Spike.
Only for Spike.
Yeah, oh boy.
I'm glad. See, you know what? We would have never had this great world building of Spike if it wasn't for you being on this episode.
Spike,
I'm glad I finally revealed Spike for being the zaddy addict. That
Yeah.
I mean,
he would be 80% less horny otherwise.
Yeah, we figured he was just trying to red pill Robbie, but we know what he's actually trying to do.
He's not worried about red pilling. He's worried about raw dogging.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say he's worried about giving Earl that red rocket, but I don't know if that's what dinosaur dicks.
That's literally what I was saying while you were saying. I was like, I don't know if dinosaur dicks are red or not. It was coming out of my mouth.
Oh, thank God.
2 out of 3 people were going to make the worst statement.
We don't know. Like we barely even know what their skin looks like. So
it's true. It's true. We can only hope that as science progresses, that joke holds up.
It's like adding feathers to the Raptors in Jurassic Park 3.
Fat feathers on his dick. Yeah,
they're gonna go back to all the replace the guns with walkie-talkies, and then although last time you mentioned dicks in Jurassic Park, somebody brought up that they're all female dinosaurs. I'm like, okay, whatever. Like that's not. They were from like frogs that switched genders though, so maybe they grew dicks. I don't know. It doesn't
possible.
Really... They could have.
It's still funny to picture them having dicks. Like I don't know why it has to.
Yeah, exactly.
Be scientifically accurate.
It's almost like they made the dinosaurs almost asexual. Like they were just like splitting off. And
imagine having that much willpower that you can make dinosaurs not have dicks when you're.
Steven Spielberg, he's really
a real professional.
Called millions of dollars.
I do like the idea though that Steven Spielberg would go back like he did in E.T., like you said with the walkie-talkies, but he's like, and he like does an interview and he's like, well, really, I always felt in my career my greatest regret was not having the dinosaurs have dicks in Jurassic Park. So that's really what this special edition is for, is to correct that error.
A George Lucas kick. Like, well, you know, I really wanted to do back in that shot, but we couldn't afford it at the time.
Yeah, Yeah, I didn't want the dinosaurs to be all female, but it served the story and it served our investors and everything, the producers, but then I went back and now I have the money to do it. Those dinosaurs are going to have big old honking fucking cocks.
Yeah, going into it, I knew the technology wasn't there yet, but I had eight or nine dick movies in my head. Dino Dick 1 through 10. Like,
there's all these like weird unnecessary shots of like when the kids are in the little Jeep and they're going down the trail. There's just like brontosaurus over top of them with huge, and like they're hitting the tops of the Jeeps with their huge dicks and stuff.
They had to like do it like in the New Hope when they added the Jabba the Hutt scene, and like because Jabba the Hutt was a person in the original shot,
yeah,
they made Jabba CGI. They had to add a part where Han walks around him and steps on his tail, but instead it's dicks hitting the windows.
There's like just that part where like they all are like up on the hillside and Jeff Goldblum says like, "You did it, you crazy son of a bitch," or whatever, and then they show like the panning shot and it's just dinosaurs in the field fucking. Just full penetration, disgusting, just absolutely disgusting. And they're just pounding away, and Jeff Goldblum still has that crazy weird look on his face, just like watching them like
he's like that freak life finds a way.
And Dr. Grant's crying, of course.
So for more content like this, you'll have to subscribe to our OnlyFans.
Yeah, our OnlyFans. and also hopefully you stick around for our next episode too.
Yeah. So we'll start. Do we have any conclusive thoughts on that episode other than obviously preachy, self-aware and not the correct way though, still rigging it on shit? Like, I mean, I think it covers it.
I still thought it was funny though.
It went viral on TikTok. This episode did, like, recently. Like, some girl was reacting to it on TikTok right when it went on Disney Plus, and it had like thousands and thousands of retweets or whatever the fuck TikTok does. I don't know.
I also do not know, but
yeah, but I guess we can thank you, Justin, for being on the show.
Yeah. Do you have anything you want to plug? Do you want to plug your podcast?
Oh yeah, if you want to, you can listen to similar nonsense to this. It's just not always about dinosaur dicks, but most of the time. You can watch every Sunday morning, twitch.tv/Big Snackers. We record at 10 a.m. Eastern time on Sundays, and then that audio will be available on any podcast thing. We've been doing it for years, so you can just look up Big Snackers and find it. I also have another podcast coming out that I was recording before this. It comes out in April, and it's sort of similar to this in a way, but it's about the Fast and the Furious universe. It's called It's called The Fast and the Curious, and it'll be out in April. So it's
amazing.
A deep dive into everything about the Fast and the Furious universe. I don't know if we'll get around to like any dinosaur dicks in that one, but maybe. You never know.
It's already, our shows are mixed canon because I quote Fast and the Furious occasionally without mentioning that I'm quoting it, because I can just slip it. I'll just like ask any racer, any real racer. Doesn't matter if you win by an inch. And then I'm just like, I'll just like not mention that that's just Vin Diesel from Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, that's excellent. Well, then, we'll have to have you on at some point.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
So are you just doing like the movies, or are you like
everything?
Characters and like characters.
So like what the whole thing is that it's the one episode will be just about like sort of the behind the scenes stuff that was going on leading up to the movie that we'll talk about in the next episode. So like the first episode is just talking about like why we're doing this and what it is, and then like sort of the things that were going on in Hollywood leading up to the Fast and the Furious getting made. Then the next episode's about the actual movie. Then the episode after that talks about like sort of like what goes on behind the scenes to make the next movie and why the series continued on. But then also we're going to have these episodes that are called Off-Roads, which is like we're going to talk about the video game, or we'll talk about the movie Torque that was inspired by Fast and Furious, or like Biker Boys and shit like that. And then also like the Netflix TV show Fast and Furious Spy Racers. We're going to talk about that at some point. So we're going to try and cover every single aspect of it, because they have an official canon that exists for this entire universe, and I'm bound and determined to get to the bottom of every single part of it. So.
Are you gonna So I assume you're gonna do Hobbs and Shaw too.
Yeah, that's gonna be later on. We're doing it in the order that they say it happened, like the actual timeline of like how Universal wants it to be presented or whatever. So
yeah, because when they went in to make the first one, they knew the technology wasn't there yet.
no, exactly.
Technology wasn't there to put The Rock and John Cena in the same movie.
Exactly.
And it never reached a point where they could put Ja Rule and Ludacris in the same one. They had to separate them too.
No, yeah, they had to. It was impossible. You can't have those two juggernauts of both acting and rap music. And also, they were in jail at separate times, so they couldn't. It never worked out that they were out at the same time.
That's the same issue they had reshooting that season of Arrested Development. I understand. But there's this season of the McElroy Brothers podcast, The Adventure Zone, that's based on Fast and the Furious that you should check out then for that.
Okay.
That might help build into that, because it's the original run of The Adventure Zone. There's this whole like 10 episode arc where they're in like a wagon race, and it's entirely based on like Griffin McElroy watching all the Fast and Furious movies in a row.
Okay, I'm into that.
It's pretty cool.
Definitely check that out for sure.
But yeah, thanks for joining us, and we gotta also thank Jeremy Hunter from Scotchy Network for doing our theme song. You can check them out on Spotify, Patreon, YouTube, etc. They're in the band We Are the Union. Thanks to Amy Shenanigans for doing the portraits of me and Tim for our logo that I added the scary puppets to. Appreciate it a lot. You can find them on Instagram at Amy Shenanigans. And who else do we gotta thank?
Some guy.
that one piece of shit.
I don't know who he is.
Do you think there are people that call Zach a piece of shit behind his back? Because I don't think so.
No, I've known him for a long time, and I can't imagine anybody would really. He's so nice.
That'd be so off-putting if somebody like he walks away and somebody's like, "Fucking hate that guy." He's just such a nice guy.
I just want to meet the person who doesn't like him, because I just want to know what their thing is about him, that they're just like, "Oh, fuck that guy."
I just hate dads. Ever since my boyfriend Spike left me for a dad. But yeah, thanks everyone for listening as well, and check out Big Snackers, check out the future podcast about Fast and the Furious, the Fast and the Curious, when that comes out. And yeah, join us next week. We're going to be doing The Last Temptation of Ethel from season 2, and that will feature our friend Matthew Gregg from Botchamania.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with Matt, and we had a lot of fun with Justin too. So
yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
We had a long spell of like no guests episodes, and then we did an interview. So it's nice to have someone back and talking about dinosaurs.
It switches a lot. We'll have like a bunch of episodes in a row where we just have a guest and then a guest the next one. Then we'll be like, yeah, we get the world build together for an episode, and then we just like, yeah, it's just back and forth. It's fun to do it with people though. So yeah, thanks for joining us, and thanks. Even I wish we would have sent you a better episode, but
it's okay. I mean, I'll come back at some point. You can give me a better one, or just constantly give me the shittiest ones that they have to offer.
I'll figure out the worst Henson project and just bring you. But yeah, thanks for joining us, and enjoy your extinction, everybody.
Yep. Goodbye.